Governor George Pataki, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Dan, happy to be with you.
So we're talking about your experience during 9/11. It's the 20-year anniversary. You were governor during 9/11, and it was a very hectic day that Tuesday. Tell me what was going through your mind that Tuesday when you learned what was happening in New York City, the Pentagon, during the attacks. How were you feeling?
Well, as soon as I saw the second plane hit the tower, I knew we were under attack. And yeah, you have to set aside really emotions and feelings and just spring into action. We had a great emergency management team. They were ready, not for this. I don't think anyone had anticipated anything like this, but we were ready. And I just immediately had to do things like activate the command center, call up the National Guard, close the bridges and tunnels that separated New York City from the rest of the state and New Jersey. Talk to the mayor, talk to the president. You just understand in a time of crisis, your role is to lead and to act.
So I think that we think about 9/11 sometimes as just the one day of the attacks, but as you and I both know, 9/11 really lasted quite a while in New York City. There was searching for the victims, there was the cleanup process, and then kind of figuring out what was going to happen next. Tell me how you felt when you had a chance to just take a step back after the day and think about what was happening and how you were going to proceed forward as governor.
Well, Dan, one of the real problems September 11th and the days after was we didn't know what might happen next. New York had already been attacked before in 1993. The Pentagon had been attacked. Shanksville had a plane go down, and we had to be prepared for potential future terrorist attacks. So that was one thing that we had to do, starting an Office of Homeland Security essentially from scratch and putting in place laws and protocols to protect us. We also, at the same time, had to do everything in our power to see if there were, by any miracle, lives that could be saved. Literally, even 6-7 days after September 11th, we hoped that we could still recover people who had been trapped under the rubble. We had the need to be compassionate towards those who had lost their loved ones. We were all suffering so much, but if you lost your wife or husband or child or parent, your suffering was a magnitude greater. So we had all these human issues to deal with. And then we also had the issue of what was going to happen to New York. And that was something that wasn't over in a week. It wasn't over in a month. It wasn't over in a year. And it was something that really consumed mine and a lot of other people's efforts for probably 2 to 3 years.
It was a heartbreaking situation throughout all of those years. Did you ever feel like you just wanted to give up on all of this? It was just such a sad time, such a fearful time, that I imagine it must have been very hard to be the state's top leader.
On that day itself, every half hour, someone would come in and say, "Did you know so-and-so was killed? Did you know someone else was missing or was in the tower?" And you had this momentary sense of incredible loss, but you just had to set it aside and understand that the time for emotion would come. But when that day and the days thereafter was a time for action and not for emotion. But I never doubted we'd get through it. I never doubted we'd come back. You have your high points and your low points, but New York is New York. I drew inspiration from just how gallantly, really, that's the right word, New Yorkers and Americans literally from every walk of life responded. The firefighters, the police officers, the EMTs, the construction workers, but literally just citizens from every walk of life and the outpouring of support and help. So you could never despair. You could never doubt. I always happen to believe that for all the difficulties, for all the challenges, we were going to get through it. We were going to come back. And my commitment from literally day one was we were going to move beyond where we were September 11th. We were going to come back stronger, build taller, and have more confidence years after that attack than we did the day before that attack.
How difficult was it to be the leader during that time? People see the governor in New York State as the leader, somebody who provides calm, and I have to imagine that must have been difficult to do at such a time where there really was no calm in New York City and around the country and really around the world.
It was a real challenge, but on the other hand, you just saw the strength and the courage of people who didn't have necessarily that responsibility of running the state and dealing and leading the response. But I just never doubted that we had the right people, the right team, the right approach, and that for all the horror of that day, for all the horror literally of the days that came thereafter, for all the economic chaos that we faced for years, I never doubted that we stick together, keep focused on what we need to do, and we were going to get through it, and we did, and I'm proud of that.
As you said, this was an unprecedented attack. Everything was happening. Everybody was very confused. But if you could go back 20 years, be the governor again, is there anything you would have done differently in response to 9/11 in the immediate day? Is there anything that you just wish you would have known?
I wish I would have known the day before. I mean, that's wishful thinking, but you think back and you just understand the magnitude of the loss and say anything we could have done to prevent this in the first place it would have been worth it. But actually, with the response itself and what we did thereafter, I really don't. I think we had a seamless response. I have to tell you, that day, I think the most important decision I made in my 12 years as governor is I got a call from Giuliani that he had moved his team to a new facility because his command center had been wiped out. And I thought for a minute, and I said, I'll be right down. And I and my entire emergency response team went down. And that afternoon, September 11th, we were sitting in the same room at the same table, and we did that for weeks and months after. So we didn't have the lack of communication, the confusion that you saw after Katrina, or we've just seen with COVID, where the city and state couldn't even talk to each other. We were all in the same room, all the key players. So we had this unified response that I'm still proud of 20 years later. I wish we could have done more to save lives, but every effort was made. And you don't look back, you look forward, and you learn from that. And we need to be proactive to protect our freedoms.
20 years later, what do you see as the lasting effects of 9/11? I feel like in my lifetime, I've definitely seen them, but what do you see as something that's grown out of 9/11 that's really changed New York City, New York State, even the country?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm proud of how after September 11th, we took a proactive attitude towards being safe and protecting our freedom from those who would attack us. But after what, I hate to bring this up on this sacred day, but after what is happening in Afghanistan, it's just so discouraging to think that those who attacked us are now empowered and encouraged and inspired, not just in Afghanistan, but every terrorist who hates America and Americans around the globe is celebrating. And that is just a horrible thought to have on this sacred day. And up until that point, the fact that we hadn't been attacked and we had been proactive in preventing terrorists from having places where they could train and organize a plot to do another attack was something that I think we could look at with some degree of thankfulness. But now I fear that is all gone. But the changes that we saw, some for the better, to me, by far the most important positive to come out of that horrible day was the sense of unity we had. And it was not just that day and weeks and months, it was for more than a year. Americans didn't see ourselves as Republicans, Democrats, North, South, black, white, rich, poor. We were all Americans, and we were united after this horrible attack upon us. We had that sense of unity. And now 20 years later, to see Americans who were friends can't even talk to each other because they may have a different philosophy is really discouraging. So what came out of it that was positive with it was a sense of unity. And as I look now, 20 years later, but look forward, the best thing that could come from remembering the courage and the sacrifices made on that date would be to try to reclaim some of that sense of unity, that we're all in this together. We have a common future. And what seems to divide us in comparison to those who hate the freedoms that we take for granted is nothing. Let's work together and look forward together.
Now that brings me to my last question for you. It's been 20 years. You were governor at the time. What's your message to New Yorkers now? 20 years after, I feel like some people really lose the sense of how important this was. What's your message to them?
Dan, one of the important things we tried to do at Ground Zero was to tell the story so that 20 years later, people who weren't born on September 11th could go there, see the magnitude of the loss, see the names of those who had fallen, see the voids where the towers had stood, so they would understand the magnitude of the value of our freedom, the value of living in this great country. And for all our flaws, for all the differences we have to understand that those who attacked us 20 years ago, they may be gone, but their successors are still out there. And we have to embrace each other, embrace our freedom, not shirk from celebrating those great opportunities, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to choose our own leaders, but do it in a way that understands that the future is not about one side or the other. The future is about all of us as Americans.
All right, Governor George Pataki, I know it's something difficult to talk about, so thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. Nice being on with you. I appreciate the opportunity.